Hey everyone, welcome to Buzzing About Romance. I am Becky, and I am super excited for this episode. I am joined by authors Besties, Krista Sandor. Welcome to the podcast, Krista.
Hello.
And she brought along her very good friend, Essie Rose. Sarah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited you guys are here and brought your chaos with you. We've only been on the meeting for 2 minutes and I've laughed more than I have in a week.
Well, there's always going to be technical difficulties with me, and Sarah's always going to have to explain, look at the button, touch the button at the bottom.
Krista just tests me for every conversation I have with my mom about technology, so it's fine.
Okay, I have to say, I have an older mother also. My mother is in her 70s, and I love her. I love my mother. But the way the woman holds her phone or holds a TV remote makes me question how much I can love her anymore.
Hold on, how? Describe it, because now I have to.
So say you have your phone, and she cups it in her hand, and she uses her other finger to point. She holds a TV remote the same way. She cannot one-hand a TV remote. It is hold and point.
Oh, that's interesting.
She's also one of those that has speakerphone and then holds the phone up to her mouth.
To be fair, my husband, Krista, experiences this on the regular. If he's on the phone, he will talk at 10 octaves higher, decibels higher than you need to be. I don't know why. I'm like, they can hear you. You don't have to speak up.
That's all right. He just needs to be heard. That's good with that.
It's fine. It's not weird at all. Romance term of the week. This is our new segment where each week we take a romance book term that someone in our community has asked about, and we define it for you. And this week's term was brought to us by podcast listener Merritt. She wanted to understand exactly what angst means in romance, because a lot of times we throw this word around, but has anybody ever actually defined it? And I did, just for you all. So the word angst in romance means that the romance is going to be heavy in emotion. The reader will experience heartbreak, anger, and sadness along with the characters. There will be feelings of pushing and pulling, creating tension within the storyline. The angst can be from the couple not being able to find middle ground and breaking up, or the angst can also be brought on by emotional trauma or environmental factors. Mm-hmm. And there are 8 different kinds of angst in romance. So there is emotional conflict, external conflict, miscommunication or misunderstanding. Unrequited love can create angst. Let's see here. Number 5. Insecurity and self-doubt. Longing and separation, either physical or emotional separation between the romantic leads. Okay. Past regrets and internal struggles.
That's 8.
That's the 8 types of angst in romance.
I think I'm having 7 of them right now.
Just right now.
So why aren't you writing these on a whiteboard? Krista should have written these on her whiteboard.
Right. There is an article on buzzingaboutromance.com that is all about what is angst and the different kinds of angst. And we give book recs along with defining each kind of angst.
Well, we tried to define at some authors gathering. It was rom-com authors got together. It was a romance author gathering. There were rom-com authors together. And we had a really hard time defining what exactly is a rom-com.
I remember us having this discussion.
Do you remember how heavy, how light?
One of those, you know it when you see it.
Well, but also what elements are needed within that? Because I think that, romantic suspense is easy to define, right? It needs some kind of mystery suspense.
Right.
I think it's easy to define darker romance. It's going to have darker, heavier themes that are outside societal norms.
Yeah.
But I think there's this blurry line between contemporary romance and pure rom-com, because you can have funny moments in contemporary romance.
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you, when I know I'm writing a rom-com, especially, it's so much harder. Like for some reason, I just want to like decimate characters and make their backstories just like I want them to have all the heartbreak, but I'm like, but it's a rom-com. So when so I have MS and I get infusions every 28 days. So when I am at the infusion center with the nurses, I'm always like, I need like ways to kill people that aren't like really upsetting. And so they'll like, like a quick stroke or a strange heart condition you didn't know you have, like nothing terrible, but you're dead. Like
I think that like being hit by lightning on the golf course would be okay.
Right, yes.
Toaster fell into the bathtub.
The question is, why are you killing so many people off in rom-coms?
Well, because I always like my heroines to come in with sort of this hole and I like to make them orphany. I like to
Why
be terrible.
There's a term of Disneying your parents.
Yeah.
In rom-com, Mariah Inkeman talks about it all the time. She Disneys all of her heroines.
Yeah, I Bambi the shit out of all these poor girls.
Nobody has parents.
No.
I was reading an article today about the use of orphan and foster kids in just literature, period, like across the board.
Yeah, there's a lot of it, isn't there?
A lot.
And it's weird to come across a romance where there's like healthy family on both sides.
That's so true. Well, you know what's so hard is especially like if you want to like embrace that whole found family thing, you kind of have to get rid of everybody else.
So in order for this to have good happy feelings, I need all you other people to die.
I was just on an airplane kind of piecing out like, okay, I need to kill off parents again because she needs to be raised by the grandparents. And then I have to have them be dead. I'm like, it's very morbid.
It's
but maybe the parents joined the circus or are musicians with rock bands and could not care for her. They're still alive, just their careers were more mobile, you know? Maybe they're grifters.
I just shot myself in the foot because my current series, I have a book coming out on Thursday and it's fairy tale retellings.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, the background has to be, it's the Disney thing. It has to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I do it too. It's terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, don't you think it's kind of powerful that in writing you get to kill people off though? Like, you get to dead people? I kind of like that.
I like putting.
We had this discussion, Krista, about how we name our people who are either villains or we've killed off.
How do you name them? Are they people that have wronged you?
Oh yeah, we go deep.
I love that. I have a list of bullies from grade school. If you ever need some names, you just send them my.
Wonderful.
Yeah, no, it's like I always say, like it turns out to be a really good thing that I dated every jerk in Denver before I met my husband because I got names. I got also.
If you ever need weird, creepy boyfriends, I had some winners that I dated. Currently, I've been with Mike for 25 years, but some of them left scars that were from.
Right? Yeah. No, we dig deep and we don't forget. We're a vindictive group.
I love it.
That's a small fun part of writing, right? Like you can kill off that person who did you wrong 27 years ago.
I know. It's cathartic. It really is. It really kind of, and it's really not that person. It's just sort of like how they made you feel. And
you can also honor people. Like I've named people after family, friends, people important in my life,
100%. I do that more, actually. I'm nicer than I am awful.
See, this is probably why I can't write the books too, because I would be awful. Like all them bitches and all those like stupid, quirky shit that dudes did on dates. Like there was one guy I dated and we played cards one night. And honestly, I ended up breaking up with him because of how he played cards.
Like how someone plays a game, a board game especially, tells you a ton about them.
Now,
It's Uno. You
I
just
say
have to
this
play Uno.
years later, as an adult, I can look at it and think he probably was on the spectrum a little bit. Probably on the spectrum a little bit. But he was fucking weird. I mean,
Wow.
and like I don't know, guys, it was weird. And I haven't let it go. And then that was like
I know, look at you.
1997. So
I am on my first date with my husband because I did not want the date tent. So we were set up on a blind date by friends. And then we went to dinner. And then he's like, do you want to come back to my place and play Scrabble?
is
And
that
I said,
code?
no, he's a good, kind, wonderful man. And so we did play Scrabble, but he was so sweet and I won. And I thought he let me win. He's like, oh no, I was really tough.
All I'm hearing is that when I come visit eventually, I'm bringing Scrabble.
You should. I know. Well, now it means something totally different.
I was going to
You know,
say, they
For
probably
mine.
play Scrabble after the boys go to
Scrabble.
bed.
Air quotes.
show me your tiles. Come on.
Naked Scrabble at the Sandor house. Watch out.
I know. If the tiles be what do tiles do?
Shake? I don't know.
What do tiles do?
The tiles
Take that
move.
little velvet bag.
If the tiles are shaking, don't
But
come a knocking.
He had he did not have just like the board that lays out. He had the plastic board that rotated on like the Lazy Susan type thing. I don't know if you've ever
Serious
seen
Scrabble
it.
player.
Yeah, I was highly impressed with his Scrabble board.
I still feel like we're talking in code.
I know, right? It feels wrong.
It
You
feels
don't work
naughty.
Scrabble into your next novel. I'm gonna have some serious questions for you.
Same.
One of these.
I feel like we're gonna need some more Scrabble like innuendos in the.
It can be sexy. I think sexy Scrabble should be.
So I married a nerd, and now all I can think of is, can you make Pokemon sexy? Like,
I
I don't
mean,
think so.
Like
Video
it-
games are not really sexy either.
but like, couldn't you
Have
find?
you seen current video games? Because my husband's playing something with some sort of Viking, and that character on that screen is like projected of what you'd want a Viking romance person.
Oh,
look
is
like.
that
Oh.
the Viking? That's the like Valhalla. Oh shoot, I can't think of the name of the series of those games. What did you say?
Something Horizon or something like that? I think.
Oh, I don't know. We've been playing some other weird game around here. My boy child's a gamer. Baldur's Gate is what my people are playing.
Okay.
It's very
I don't
weird.
know that.
I don't know. There were sorcerers and
Oh, I love that kind of stuff, but
I'm really bad at 3D games, so my family gave up on me being able to play them.
I can't. They make sometimes like I can't watch them play because I get dizzy.
I get
Like,
motion sickness. First
yeah,
person
like-
games, like shooters and stuff, as they're running, and
Yeah.
I want to vomit. I can't play them.
We did
Sometimes like
You guys have the goggle, I forget the name of it.
Oh, the
virtual
VR.
reality,
That's
VR
sick.
goggles. Yeah.
Yeah. Now that makes you motion sick, or you just run into furniture like I do.
Oh, I always hurt myself. They put a game on where it was like there's stuff coming at you and you have to move from side to side, and I'll like jump into a bookshelf.
We need to funnel this. I'm just envisioning more rom-com moments. This is a good conversation for coming up with ideas.
I know.
I was going to say, look at us helping you plot out all these books. So that's the first question for you guys, because I want our listeners. Now, Krista's been on the podcast before, but Sarah, you are new to the podcast.
Virgin.
Although we did review one of your co-author books on the podcast. Your small town firefighter that you wrote with
yes,
Sierra.
yeah.
We did review one of those. I'll link it in our on the shelf show notes. But Sarah, what kind of writer are you? Are you a plotter, a pantser,
I'm a recovering pantser.
a recovering pantser?
I've been really good the past 2 years about plotting. I've gotten to the point where I plot each chapter out.
She's good.
But
Yeah.
I used to just fly by the seat of my pants 100% through the whole book.
So do your books play out like a movie in your brain, or is it one idea that sparks and you go with it, or do your characters talk to you? How do like the ideas come to you?
All of my books start with I just have an idea for a scene, and that usually is the first scene. And then yeah, as I'm writing them, it's just like watching a movie in my brain.
Okay. What about you, Miss Krista Sandor? Are you a plotter or a pantser?
What is it when you're kind of both, but like a little psychotic? A planster? A
Krista Sandor?
I know where I want to start, and then I have to figure out what is the gift that he needs to give her? Like, what is the gift that only the hero can give the heroine? And once
You're a pantser with your concept, but once you get to your plot, you are like,
yeah,
sticky notes all over your home.
yeah, but things can change fast. Like, especially if I decide there should be a better ending, or if I decide something like this, it's gotten worse. Like, I think I used to be better, and but you want to know something? Now I feel comfortable enough to say, I know where I'm starting. I know the holes in these characters' hearts. I know where they need to get to. Let's just start. Otherwise, it's like, what is that? Like procrastination, where you just get stuck. I can't think of the word, but it's like, if I don't just start, I could keep thinking. Like, I have so many boards going. I'm starting a new book tomorrow, the second in a small town series. And I have so many notes.
I expect a call tomorrow.
Yeah. So she'll get a call tomorrow. I'll be crying, or I'll be saying that it's never going to work.
Nothing can top the Oscar escape for me, though, because it's so like married into my daytime world that I was like, and this and that. And I was sending her notes and articles.
Oh, yeah. Because there's a whole lobster. Sarah knows a lot about lobsters and the law and things
Do
of that
you
nature.
get the random, like, rambling text messages from Krista? Because I do, which I adore. I think are hilarious, and I listen to, like, the voice memos that'll come my way. And there was one day I was listening to one, and my girl child was like, who is that? I'm like, it's Krista. And she's like, okay. And she walked away. She's like, and then I was like, what is your problem? She's like, my ADHD can't handle that. I'm like, got it, friend.
Our kids, we've talked to each other for so long, and our kids know, my kids know her kids know, that we'll just go on like, FaceTime or whatever, and we're just interacting with the whole family. Like everyone knows each other.
Yeah. No, and it started. So this is only because I stalked Sarah. I found Sarah like 5 years ago on Twitter, and I'm like, we should be friends. That right? We should 100%. Be friends.
But then we came up with the whole thing, because I think you said one day, you're like, it's like we're author wives. We're twice, because we're on Twitter, but then it had a real meaning, remember?
We didn't know. So for like a year, we lovingly called each other twice. Like, I think we've sent each other like gifts with twice written.
I have a mug that says, I love my twice. My son was using it all summer.
We didn't know. We thought it was a cute word that we came up with. We did not. Then we looked at what's
Urban
that?
Dictionary.
Urban Dictionary told us it meant something. But then it kind of was.
So what does it mean?
TWAT, wife.
Oh.
And I don't like that. I'll be honest with you. I don't like that word very much. I don't like that word, and I don't like the C word. But
see, the C word doesn't bother me, but mostly because my husband's family is from Australia.
Oh, okay.
And they often say it. So in a course of if I can understand half of what they say with their accent, that's one of the words I can understand.
Yeah.
So it doesn't bother me, but the word that does bother me is smut. I hate the word smut, because I think your stories that you write, because you both write open door romances with spicy and sexy scenes in them, and what you write is more than those scenes.
Yeah.
If you want
just had this whole conversation, Becky, this last weekend. I was Entertainingly, I spent the weekend with 6 gay men in a
Yeah.
beach house. But they're old friends of mine. We were
How
hanging
can
out.
I go on that date?
I walked away from that experience being like, I understand reverse harem. I understand the job. Like the whole weekend, these guys were like, let me get that for you. Let me open that jar. Let me make you the dinner. And I was like, this is great. But we were talking about my books, and one of them said smut, and it rubbed me the wrong way too. And I said, listen, I include, like, what's the difference between your best friend and your boyfriend? Like, what's that difference? And they're like, well, the romantic element, obviously. And I'm like, does that not include physical? And they're like, yes. And I said, to me, when you take the physical element completely out, you can still have a romance. It's fine. But to me, that those moments in the story are just part of that relationship. So you're just exploring the full elements of the relationship if you include it.
No,
100%.
I agree.
There's nothing there's no sex scene. And that's what, like, I really just hate. I get all sorts of creepy people will send things, but there's no scene that's not there for a purpose.
Right.
Like there just isn't. And like in every scene that is sex or building up to it or kissing or whatever, there's always internal stuff going on, right? And it's that connection.
Yeah.
It's that connect, right? I mean, it's just, that's another way they're connecting. Or, I mean, in the beginning, if it's like enemies to lovers, maybe they hate each other, but it's building up that tension, and it's moving the story where it needs to go for those characters. I know. I don't like, I mean,
don't
you know,
hate the word smut. Like smut, but smut to me is penthouse forum. That is smut, because that is just sex. It is just about sex. It's not about relationship and hope and building up community. And if you look at romance, we need an HEA or an HFN. It
Right.
has to have that, or it's not romance. And you can create physical connection without sex, but it cements and continues to kind of, I can't think of the word because, you know, I host a show for talking. It just cements and confirms that connection is more than just the physical level. And so the word smut in reference to romance books, I think it devalues what you're writing, because you're writing more than just sex.
Well, and it's okay for things to feel nice for a woman. I think we still live in this world where for some reason that's like taboo or something,
Right.
for a woman to feel pleasure in her body. Our bodies were made to do this. I don't know why we still want to make women feel bad about that. I think
so
it's great.
I feel like from the 90s till now, we should have come so much further than we have.
You mean that we've gone backwards 25,000 steps? Yes.
Yeah, that too.
But I mean, a woman being in charge of her.
Like, yeah. Krista, I know we've talked about it, but like just the whole image of the romance community in general. And I feel like the media only picks up on the bad stuff. And that really bothers me.
It's really interesting because part of the reason I started the podcast was I wanted to talk about these books. I have been reading romance since 1990. I started with the Bodice Rippers. I love romance, and I love talking about romance. The problem was I did get sucked into the mom book clubs, and they're all like, oh yeah, we read romance. And then they don't. They want you to read like a compilation of essays or some fucking self-help bullshit. No, I want to read romance. Like, if I'm going to have time, I want to read romance. So I started the podcast because I wanted to talk about these books. And it's so interesting to me because so many people that have come into our community will say, I don't have anyone in my real life to talk about romance with. But it's $1 billion industry. People are reading it, but why can't we talk about it? Why can't you wear a t-shirt that says, I'm a proud romance reader. I read romance.
Yeah. I don't know.
Of readers worldwide have read more than one romance. So the odds are good. Someone's read a romance. Yeah. Even at my job, where people like, I've had, law-esque people in a book club and they're all like, we're reading a memoir. But then I turn around and I'm people with multiple degrees, and they're like reading my books and like, oh yeah, I love romance. And I'm like, but I bet you wouldn't talk about it. And they don't. So they're like closet readers. And then they know I write. So they'll come and because I'm like a safe zone to talk to.
Right.
So you can openly just say you like romance. It's not.
I know.
And I don't think like using a word like smut is going to help bring people out of the closet as far as reading romance.
It's a weird term. It's one of those terms I feel like either people just embrace it and they're like, yeah, and they use it in that way that like throwing it back on people. Or
Right.
they just like don't use the term. It's not,
Yeah.
a good connotation.
It's not my favorite.
But I mean, every romance I have ever read or written empowers a woman. Like she might not start out empowered, but her journey brings her there. Like that, I mean, even if it's her sexuality, it's figuring out who she is, who she's supposed to be in this world, as the two characters do that. I just I anyone that I hear like kind of like making fun of it or probably hasn't read it. I mean, that's and I don't know
Yeah.
what to do for those people
But they
besides.
have, I looked, so my husband, like, back in the day, loved Clive Cussler books. I don't know if you've ever read them, but they're like action adventure books. So I read a couple of them because he was reading them. And it's like the James Bond. There's a woman in the story, there's a love interest, it's a subplot going on. And I'm like, your book has romance. What are you talking about?
No, romantic elements are in, that's what makes good stories. Think about like even in movies, if we
Right.
think of like the Marvel movies that are this big, huge billion-dollar industry, comic books genre is billions of dollars.
Star Wars, Harry Potter, all of them.
Romantic elements are some of the foundations of those stories. Would you have Iron Man without Pepper Potts? Like
No.
you need her. There, Bruce Wayne needs whatever, woman is in his foresight at that time. It's just not romance because it doesn't end in an HEA.
Right. Right. But those elements are what. So I read this book and her name is, I always talk about her. Theodora Taylor wrote this amazing book and it talks about universal fantasies and she calls it butter, which I love because I love butter. But it's those buttery scenes that like make your heart flutter. I mean, there's a reason. It's funny. Like I'll be watching, I mean, just anything. And my husband can look at my face and know, like, if I'm like, like you feel it. You feel that butter. You feel like the the popular guy liking the nerd. You feel like two people, what did I just watch on the plane? Two people sitting next to each other on a plane, and there's just like this instant connection and this kind of bubbly, fizzy, what could this be feeling? Like that's the butter. It's not, that's what people want. They want to feel like they're that person right there experiencing those feelings of just, I don't know, the connection, the desire that could this be something. I mean, there's just, that's what I love. Insta love. I really do. I love when two people like meet each other. They think they know everything that's supposed to happen in their life. They think they figured it out. And this one person just rocks their ass like off its axis, right? And they have to figure out.
Did you watch Love at First Sight yet?
That was it. That was it. I smiled through that whole thing. My husband was just like, I was like, oh, just like little like romance drooling. They're cute little like round 20 something faces. And I'm just like, oh. Loved it.
I love instant connection. It's funny though, like I will read an instant connection romance, give it to me. I love a one night stand. My hardest trope to love is friends to lovers. That is where I struggle the most, particularly if in their brain is the constant conversation of it'll ruin our friendship or, I read a book, was not one of your guys', so don't worry. It was a friends to lovers. The word but appeared 632 times in the book. And I was like 68% in, and he was still, or she was still, oh, I can't. but, or I'm attracted to her butt. And I'm
Yeah.
like, Jesus Christ, I'm going to show you some butt because this is obnoxious. Um, so
No.
that's my
Well,
struggle.
it is hard because then I bet you that author was trying to keep the angst going, right?
Of course, the unrequited
But
love, the
yeah,
tension, and it
yeah,
was just annoying.
yeah,
Mine's surprise pregnancy. I don't do well surprise pregnancy trope books.
yeah. Like
See,
when they don't tell the guy that they've had a baby,
Either way, just
or
pregnancy throughout the book. It's just a hard.
yeah,
I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
pregnancy is absolutely one of those that is like it or hate it. I don't think there's a lot of middle ground for it. I also
Yeah.
think that comes into personal journeys with
yeah,
pregnancy. I like them. I don't even mind accidental pregnancy, but I think part of that is my generation because I know that a lot of people are like, well, there's condoms, just get condoms, or there's plan B. As a kid of the 90s, there weren't just easy access condoms all over the place.
no.
Like you had to make the effort. I remember being in college and you had to catch the right nurse at student health to get free condoms. Or
You just have bowls of them, really.
I went to a state school. Maybe it was because I went to a state school. I don't know. But like the Planned Parenthood was enough blocks off campus that it was a destination to go there and get them. But then I got kicked out of my dorm and I lived with 9 guys. So it was, it's fine.
It's no white moment for you.
Let me tell you though, those are so hard. So on the 8th, maybe baby is like a pregnancy to birth, and managing that woman's pregnancy, like knowing I will never ever do it. I bet you I still have the thing. Like I had all these like how many weeks she'd be here and this and that. So I had a book, The Sound of Home. There's a pregnancy kind of issue in that at the very end. And I initially the book, I've changed the book. This is an old book. It's like over 5 years old. But she had an ultrasound, and I did not make it an internal ultrasound. I just said an ultrasound. Blah, blah, blah. I got, Sarah knows, I got, oh my God, a letter from a reader. It would love this book until that, and it was wrong, and there's no way you could detect this and this and this at this. I mean, like I knew that as a woman who's I had to have an internal ultrasound. I think every week, starting at my 13th or 14th week of pregnancy with my last born, I named that wand that I had to see. So, but I didn't put it in a book. I didn't really. Anyways, I get this email about how it's wrong. So I'm like, I'm going to figure out a way. So I rewrote it, but I don't want to say like tastefully, but just so she was getting an internal ultrasound because the lady was right. She was right. She was right. So anyways, when I wrote On the 8th Maybe Baby, which I was just.
Did you sign up for the pregnant? I know some authors sign up for like the pregnancy week apps to keep track of things.
Yes. Like I was growing a baby or something. Oh, believe me, I was so, I mean, honest to God.
So I know one author and she is in a committed relationship with a partner, but they do not plan to have children. Yeah. She had the free formula and diapers show up on her doorstep from signing up, and she was dying. She's like, what the fuck?
You know everything. Yeah, no, it's like to really, so from then on, I just make sure anything like that is, oh no, I did something like that. Okay, I've had a couple pregnancies. I'm lying to you, but I've hated every minute of it. Because no, I loved the writing part. I've hated the managing part.
Sure.
Like that is,
Well, and it's funny the things that I will pick up on as a reader, and I do tend to read a little bit more critically just because of the day job and stuff like that. But like I read a book that took place in the northern part of Michigan, on one of the Great Lakes. And the author referred to the town as, and Sarah, you'll love this because you were a Great Lakes kid. She referred to the town on Lake Huron as coastal town of Michigan, a coastal town. Sarah, do we call towns that are by the lake coastal?
We're not coastal. We're not coastal. I'm coastal now. I was not
Right.
coastal growing
Right.
up.
Like I could not get past it. I think she made like 3 or 4 references in the first 2 or 3 chapters of this coastal Michigan town and smelling the coastal air, which I've been to Lake Huron. It's been a minute. And I've recently been to Lake Erie. The coastal lake air is not beautiful.
No.
It smells like dead fish.
Yeah, yeah, it's not like a pleasant smell. Mm-mm.
So she talked about like her hero like breathed in the coastal airs of Michigan. And I'm like, first of all, they're not
You would
fucking
not do
coastal.
this.
And secondly, it smells like dead fish. Nobody's breathing that in.
That's why I will only write about places I've been.
Yeah.
So I ended up DNFing because I could not let that go. But then recently I read a book and the author ended up having to change a couple of chapters because she had a dog pregnancy in it.
Oh.
And her readers, her ARC readers came at her and said, these statements that you make about a dog giving birth or dog being pregnant and breeds and stuff like that was inaccurate. And you need to fix it. So she fixed it, but I didn't catch those because I don't pay attention to the dog pregnancy.
I wouldn't know. I would
would
not know.
So
But people who know. Like
right?
like people who know. And
No,
I mean, I
some
do
people write
appreciate.
about places I've been or lived and they're not from there and you can tell immediately they're not from there.
I'm like, no one
Yeah.
calls it coastal in fucking Michigan. No one.
It's like when Tommy Boy had an airport in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, and that is not a thing, just so everyone knows.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
This day.
Anyway, yeah. Well, I also go ahead, Krista.
No, I was just trying to think if I've ever written about any place that I've never been. I kind of like the idea of a fictional town though, because you get a little bit more
Sure.
leeway.
But if you use like a landmark,
Yes,
so that's
right.
part of what we're going to talk about if we get there, is small town romances. And one of the things that I think with small towns so I live in a small town in Northwest Ohio, which means to get to any like larger amenities such as an international airport, it's a 90-minute drive. The closest Target is 45 minutes away. Now, we do have some, nationwide chains, but they've only been in our town since the 90s. Like, we have regional grocery stores like Meijer or, what's the other one? Kroger, because apparently not everyone has Kroger. I didn't know that. So like writing small towns is fine, but you'll get some people like I read a small town where is it really a small town if it's only 20 minutes into downtown Philly?
So here's the thing about the mid-Atlantic when I moved here, because I was the same thing like you growing up. Like I was 45 minutes from Cleveland. It was, and it took probably like 55 minutes back then to get there. But here, like a really small town, like small town is probably like 10 minutes from me. It's less than 30 minutes to BWI airport, to that very small town, or a number of very small towns. So they're more everything.
So I guess it depends on where you are.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think
But for like you, Krista, in the Rockies, even though you're not going like mileage a long distance, you actually kind of are because of the length of time it takes to get there. There's no real straight shots.
No. And this new one that I'm writing, my son and I went down. It's in like the sort of the Crested Butte, Salida, Colorado area. And let me tell you, like we were terrified. We had to go through something called Monarch Pass to get there. It's like drop off. And I've lived in Colorado for a long time and I've driven on icy road. I mean, my son, Nate, he was just like, Mom, I can see way far down. Like, stop, don't stop. Don't. Just feel, but when it comes to like Colorado, you can be cut off just because of like the land, right?
Yeah.
Or access to, yeah.
So I do think that it's like, so when you're writing small town, it is location based, right? Because,
Yeah.
you know, Brooklyn
Yeah.
can feel like its own little small town. The Village in New York City can feel like its own little small town, but it's not.
Well,
That's-
so like, is it? Because now I'm kind of thinking. So like,
What
if you have
defines
a
small
city-
town?
Well, here's the thing. What if you have like a city, but they're in like a little neighborhood of it? Because you can like really like you can be in a big city where I am in Denver, but you can be in like the Berkeley neighborhood and go to like all the cute little quirky shops. And like, would that be that? I guess that's not small town, but what would you call that?
But
Like,
how would you trope that
I
for
don't
a
know.
romance book? Because if
Right,
you think,
right.
because if you,
I mean, it's city, but it's small. It's neighborhood city. I don't. Is that a thing?
Holy shit, then I screwed up. My first Langley Park is a little neighborhood near Kansas City, and I always say it's small town, but I'm lying.
but I think about like Cleveland. So I think about like the city of Cleveland and all of
Yeah.
the little burbs and communities.
Right.
They're very distinct communities.
Sure.
You have Little Italy, you have Covington, which is like where the hippies and all the crunchy granola people. Like that was the first time I went into a neighborhood and they had like a co-op grocery store. Like you have to work there. You have to come and volunteer to shop there. And I'm like, what?
What is this?
There was a whole little store on their main street dedicated to stuff for your cat and cat themed things.
Sarah,
I'm
tell
like,
Sarah,
are you
Sarah's there.
kidding?
Sarah's booking her flight. I bet you she's holding her phone in her other
I know what I'm
hand.
doing this weekend.
And stop at Tommy's for a milkshake. That's the best.
Noted. I'm a Swenson's girl when it comes to milkshakes, personally.
Okay, that's kind of a hard one because if someone's world is this little microcosm in a city,
Yeah.
it definitely has a small town feel to it.
So that's a
it's not-
question. What do you consider? How do you consider a small town romance to be a small town romance, especially when you guys are writing it? Like, what kinds
Yeah.
of things do you think about? Do you think about location? Is it population size? Is it
So all the
access?
small towns I write are centered around sort of what I knew as small towns growing up in the, I guess, what has now become the burbs in between Akron and Cleveland, Ohio.
And
And
she'll
also
send me
the
pictures
small
when you-
towns.
Where did you go where you were sending me pictures? It was so freaking cute, that little bookstore. Do you remember? Was it Maryland? Were you in? It was in where you live or close to
Here.
where?
Or at home in Ohio.
No, it was Ohio. You were in Ohio.
So the bookstore, there's a little bookstore in Hudson, Ohio.
Oh, yeah. That was
Bookstore that I grew up going there. And some of the small town in my Perfectly Imperfect Love series is sort of based on that little small town. So I was there and I was taking pictures from my books there because there's a gazebo.
you were vibing hardcore.
I love what I spent my childhood going there. So it just makes my heart happy when I go back and that same bookstore's still there and I've taken my kids to that bookstore and like I have still like books in their room from my childhood that have the little stamp from the bookstore in the front.
That.
But like that, like, what if that was in a little neighborhood outside of in Baltimore or something? It might. I don't know. Now my brain is not.
I mean, where I
functioning.
live now is a cluster of, well, it's not really a town, it's a homeowners association, but it's a cluster of 11 or 13 villages,
Yeah.
like a village center. But I mean,
But is that a small town? We could debate this hardcore.
No, we have on episodes, like we did a whole episode about like small town superlatives, and then we did, top 10 small towns of romance. And I do think that your perception of small town is very much based on like maybe where you live or how you grew up, or even maybe like where you went to college. Like one of the girls that does parts of the podcast, Rachel, she went to school at Ohio State. So she lived in downtown Columbus. Like that's big city Columbus. And when she comes back to Findlay, where we live, she's like, Findlay's a small town. Except I don't consider Findlay small town anymore because I can go to the grocery store and not run into anyone I know. I can move, I can move around town and go to dinner, and I'm not going to know the servers, and the servers aren't going to know me. Versus if I go, my husband grew up in Headlands, Ohio, up north of
Oh,
Menor.
yeah.
And if we still lived there, you could go over to Grand River to the little restaurant that's there, and likely the server knew his grandmother. Or you go to the IGA and the butcher knows exactly what grandma would have ordered, you know.
But I
Yeah.
think like, so my mom grew up in southeastern Iowa, and she grew up in a very small, it was a little coal mining town. I think in its heyday it had 500 people there. And there's probably 50 people there when I was little and visit my grandparents. But the nearest like town with like an actual like anything grocery store, anything you go to that wasn't a cluster of homes and a decrepit building that was once a bank or a school, only had like 1,000 people. I think they reached like 1,600 people when I was in my teens, and they had enough people to get a McDonald's, which was like this huge deal. But even there, like you would know most of the people. And my grandmother wrote a column for the local newspaper, and she'd write about us and put pictures, which I don't know if people do that nowadays. But everyone would know us. And as a little girl, people would be like, "Oh, Sarah," and they'd know things about me. And it would just be like stranger danger moments of like, "Who are you? And why do you know me?"
Right.
But we didn't know everyone. Like even like, a little over 1,000 people. Like she didn't know everyone everywhere we went. So I don't know like how small of a town. Like when I write them, there's a lot of people who know people because you go to the ice cream shop all the time, or you go to that thrift store all the time, or but I don't know if it has to be small enough that you would know everybody all the time.
So
But
this is what my husband says. My husband says whenever we watch anything on, like if we're watching a movie and it's supposed to be in a small town, it's a small town until it's like the county fair, and then there's like fucking everyone at this fair, like it's like a deserted town until it's like Founders Day, and then it's like balloons and kids and
I do think there in order to be small town, it has to have some kind of kitsch, a
Yeah.
festival, a theme of the
Oh, yeah.
small town, or,
Yeah.
like an annual staple that's going to happen.
I am a sucker for that shit. Jubilees, nights under the stars, like
Donkey races.
donkey races. No, the packed burro racing. That's a thing in a small town in Leadville, Colorado. It is also in a book. Because I am like living small town Colorado, and it's just packed full of like little town founded, has sort of this history that like seeps into it, and the same family that founded it still is active, that like that whole like that roots thing. That I think people are always sort of looking for that connections. Like we're so like kind of disconnected. We
But
move
don't you
around
think,
a lot.
Kristen, we talk about our towns. So like I remember when you did Langley Park and you literally had maps. Like here's the maps and here's where the houses, like it's like the town is a character in the book. To me, that's small town.
That's exact.
So we talk about that a little bit too. So small town where it's a setting versus small town where it's a character. I
Yes.
tend to like the small town romances that it's a character. I want the small town to have personality. And maybe it's the people that live in it that create the personality. But like, if there's like a town chicken that runs through the town, I'm in that. Or the library has a cat that when the library is closed, it then goes next door and hangs out at the grocer or at the wine shop or whatever. Like, I want those cute little things.
Yeah,
Like,
the small
okay,
town. Well,
yeah.
my favorite, I don't like favorite, but it's my favorite. My last two series were in a town I created that's modeled after some towns here in Maryland. And one of the characters' family owns a farm, and the horse always ends up eating all the flowers in the flower window boxes on Main Street.
But she has a story about a horse. Remember your friend with the horse and that put its head up, came to school?
Yes.
Okay. Is it
I
because
grew
of
up in
that?
a small town, and my friend's horse was at stables around the corner from our school. And we were in the back of the science room, which was the only room, by the way, that with the windows open. And we were just sitting there hanging out. And all of a sudden, I feel breathing on my neck, and I'm like, that's weird. And I turn, and there's just a horse head next to me because her horse had gotten out, figured out where she was, and just came to the classroom and was like, hey. And she was like, oh my God, my horse. So she jumped out of the window onto the horse and rode it across the grounds of the school back to the stables.
That's the best part.
Ohio.
That's
She
fantastic.
jumped out a window and rode a horse.
I mean, horse girls are their own special breed.
Yep.
Indeed.
Um,
I love small town. Like I know this is audio, but can you see this? I'm having
Really cute.
postcards.
I've
Like
been seeing all your stuff.
This new series it's a family who it was founded because a paper maker came to this place, and he was so the story behind it is he was the second son in London of a paper maker, and he knew the business was going to go to his older brother, so he set off to America to become a paper maker here. And he wanted to do it bachelor for life, wanted to just have his own thing because he'd always been the second son. Nothing was ever going to go to him. So he gets to this place, and of course there's a girl, and he sees her, and they fall in love, but they can't get married. The girl's father is not for that. 20 suitors have come. He's like, nope, you got to prove to me that, you're the one. So he makes this paper. I don't know if you know anything about paper making, but it's this really neat process where you're like mixing like natural fibers and to make a pulp with water. And he makes this paper with the water from the creek, and he writes a letter to the father of this woman and gives it to her. And everyone's like, no, they take bets. No, he's going to say no. This is bullshit. He says yes. So from there's something in the water. There's something with this paper. There's something magical that brings love. And then these, they fall in love and they start this town together, and then it just grows and grows and grows. So anyway, that's what I love about small towns. And so now I have like paper company notebooks, and I
love this. And honestly, I'm like over here going, yeah, Krista, you know what my address is. Feel free to send me all the starry cards.
Well, because you were the one. Can we say that you're the one who helped me flush this out? Flush it. We didn't flush anything. Flushed. There was some flushing.
We could have flushed.
We could have. But yeah.
But these are all your ideas. Like, I was just a sounding board. That is the best part of when I get to work in this industry, is helping, just being, someone for you to bounce ideas off of and then say, hey, but did you think about this? I love that, because like here we've talked about how many different ideas with small towns now, and they're all like, percolating in your brain, and you're like, okay, I can see me using this, and oh, right, that's a great idea. Why don't I use this? And I love that. I think, and like defining something like small town, are we ever going to have a cross-genre consensus of what makes small town romance?
I don't know.
No, we're not. We're never going to have it. But I think that's great, because we can keep thinking and creating and doing and having different ideas. And again, location makes a difference, because small town on the eastern seaboard is very different. Yeah. And I think until you get to like Virginia, then it becomes more like the Midwest, where it's longer spaces between the towns. They're not all like...
I mean, I was just in the UK. A UK small town, so different than here.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So
I think you just have to do it right. Like, I think you just have to honor the location, right? Like, I think if you honor your location, even if it's fictional, then you're going to be okay.
So what's the best part of creating your small towns? Like, Sarah, so when you go in and are like, okay, this is going to be a small town, what is your favorite part to create within the small town?
The side characters, the people who live in the small town.
Yeah.
I'll have ones and I'll just take a liking to certain ones, and they'll show up in other ones over and over, because I just like this character so much. I don't know if they need their own story, but I just want the like funniness, the humor they bring to the story. I want it to keep continuing because I love them.
What about you, Krista? What's the best part creating when you do your small towns?
I think it's just what Sarah was saying, like just drawing it and then making it and then figuring out like, how is this going to be a community? Like, what are people going to kind of coalesce around? And it just sort of, you sort of find your theme there. And this,
Like a
this
quirky
one,
extended family. Like I feel like your stories have those quirky characters too, because of the locale.
well, I'm in Colorado, and so we have a lot of like, there's a lot of stuff that's
You're like, I have a lot of inspiration to draw from.
There's a lot of quirky in Colorado.
Yeah, and there's just a lot. We're open to a lot here. A lot of things are legal here. They're just, it's, I don't know.
I do love that you do that, Krista, that is something that I think is one of those, the use of marijuana and THC, it still has a little bit of a taboo feeling, but there are many, many places where it is legal now. And I love that you use that in your books and that you put it in there and are normalizing it. I do love that.
Yeah. Well, and they're fun character. I mean, it's, kind of.
I will say my favorite part of Small Town is when there's a gossip train of little old ladies or old men, especially if the old men get into the gossip. I love that every time.
I love old ladies that sort of like, they kind of like are rubbing their hands because they know like a match needs to be made, or they, I do. I love old people. I love them. Like grandma.
Two of my best friends are an 85-year-old couple.
Yeah.
That live next door. Well, 83 and 85.
They can drink.
I just had drinks with them the other night. They always invite me in, and I spend like 5 hours drinking with them. And the marathon of stories from them are just the best inspiration for my older characters I could ever get.
I love that. My mother can put away a bottle of wine, so do not ever let her challenge you to a drink off, like ever.
No, I think there's just something, and I was thinking about this today, that I really love is I feel like a lot of times it just doesn't seem like anyone's looking out for anybody. And I love in books where like the character looks back and somebody was looking out for them, right? Like, or hoping for them, or watching them, or just, wanting a good outcome for them. I love that
feeling of community. I think that's part of Small Town.
You're not right. You were never alone. You might have felt alone. You were never alone. I don't know.
And I think Small Town has inherently a built-in found family feel.
Yeah.
So even if you're writing a family series in a small town, there's still those found family elements. Because like Sarah said, there's community.
No, a Small Town, my series starts around a family who are quirky in and of themselves, but then they just adopt in all these other members of the community that they live in.
Yeah.
I love
Which
that.
I just want to be part of the Moore family, really, is why I wrote them. But.
Right.
I know, right? I know. It's sort of like, I don't know. It's just that house that everybody wants to go to, or, oh, you're new here. Well, honey, come have, we're Thanksgiving. We'll come join us.
Cathartic, like what we would have wanted.
Yeah.
No, I
make
agree.
Our own,
Yeah.
No, it's. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, just that feeling of like you found where you belong, right? Like, who doesn't want that? And then you have great sex. Who doesn't want that?
I mean, those are all the things we all want. And pie. I don't know what it is about Small Town and baked goods, but if there's a baked good in a small town, I am 1,000% reading that book multiple times because I love a good baked good.
My book that comes out on Thursday is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but she lives above a bakery.
Okay. What is the title of that?
The Billionaire and the Librarian.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So I love food. Like, I'm just eating my way through. Look at these little marmalades. Marmalade.
I love that company.
Look, they're very small. Yes. So
the company has a really cool history. You should look it up.
I do. Right.
And that company actually does an advent calendar of their.
I told you, I bought it. I got it.
You did.
The Jam advent calendar.
Yeah. So there's a girl on TikTok that gets it every year, and she makes a thumbprint cookie like she makes the base, and then each day, whatever jam comes, she makes a thumbprint cookie out of it. So she
Oh
has
my,
the dough, so like, 6 thumbprint cookies from the jam. And I was like, can I just come and eat jam and thumbprint cookies? Because I love a good shortbread. Give me a butter cookie and I'm in.
oh
Really
my
any
God.
cookie.
That's crazy. I just bought the advent calendar with the bon maman. Is that how we say it? Bon maman?
Well, yeah.
I think
Bon
so.
maman?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Oh
think
yeah.
so.
No, I love food. I love how food makes you feel in books. I love how heroes like they're all like for like being fit or whatever. Like my body is a temple until she makes a pie and then he just like can't stop
Stop.
himself. I love that shit. I mean, it's all the warm, fuzzy. I
I
don't
am.
Feel
know.
good.
We did a whole episode of books that with food references, so foodie romances. And
Oh, I was in it with the food
yes,
truck, with the
yes,
grilled cheese food. Do you want to know the weight I gained writing a grilled cheese food truck book?
sister.
I
Like,
was a
Hey,
cheese whore.
recipes while she was writing that.
I love that. I
I
love
was a
it.
cheese whore. Like,
Well, and I think your margarita scene in Nanny and the Hot is that Nanny and the Hothead when
yeah,
she's
where
like,
she's the mermaid, she's dressed as a mermaid, she's had all the that's a real place. I actually had they only are supposed to give you a certain amount. And my friend and I went there. Oh my God. Anyway, yeah. Yeah.
we found out our local Mexican restaurant DoorDashes margaritas. You get one margarita for every entree you buy, and it
So,
comes in a 32-ounce deli container,
oh,
like the
oh my
takeout
Ours,
soup container.
yes, ours does that too.
And so I have 4 people in my family, and we order 4 entrees, so we get 4 32-ounce margaritas. It's a good night.
Now
I
that
did.
TikTok sound is going through my head. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome. Yeah, I know. Food, small towns,
That's
that
what
like
I
the
tell
diner.
my husband. He used to make me the most amazing margaritas. He still does.
Oh,
It's all over if he makes margaritas. I'm done.
I am very lucky. Mike Burrier makes all the drinks I ask. Like we have drunk book club, and he will make all the drinks I ask. And he's such a good
Oh,
sport.
Yeah.
I love
that's
it.
you got a good one.
I love a good cocktail. Um, okay, so if a reader is new to you, so if they've never read your books before, where would you suggest that they start, Sarah?
Oh, Chronicles of a Hot Mess.
Chronicles of a Hot Mess.
Mhm.
Is that a first in series or is this standalone?
It's a standalone. I ended up loving the character so much, I did a spin-off series from it,
Okay,
which then I loved some other characters, and again, I did another spin-off series.
I love
So
it.
there's 9 books altogether in that world, but that one's a standalone.
Okay, that's a great place to start. Krista, what about you? If a reader hasn't read your books, where would you suggest they start?
I usually say Manfast,
Manfest?
Bergen Brothers. You're in Denver. That's pretty much where I write, but it's kind of a good entrance. And then these books, then I wrote a lot of nanny love match books, and these characters cross over in them. So I just and Manfast is a quick read. It's not super long. And I just think that's all, I don't know. That's usually where I tell people to start.
Okay,
Oh.
I think it's a good place.
I don't know. Or maybe
I
no,
mean,
that's
I
fine.
love The Nanny and the Nerd, and I think that I really think most of your books you can pick up wherever.
Yeah, Nanny and the Nerd is my very best seller ever. It, was the book that changed everything for me, which I mean, I love that. My husband always asked me if I should go back to just writing nanny books. And maybe, I don't know.
No, we're not going backwards.
Right.
There are new ideas and new things. Just because one thing is selling does not mean you should write it over and over again.
Right. Well,
Right
and
wherever
we're,
your
we're
heart
locked
is.
in to the small towns.
That's right. And that's something that we talk about a lot because one of the trends that we're seeing with authors right now, there are some authors that are trying really hard to write to trends. Like they see this trope selling so well, so let's write this kind of book. And I will tell you, in my opinion, this is my opinion as a reader and someone that's been in the industry for a while, I don't think it's sustainable. And as a reader, we can tell that that was not the book of your heart.
Yeah.
Also, I think it's hard if you're trying to write, unless you can write incredibly fast and get it edited very fast. You're almost behind the, the trend by the time you get something out.
Yeah.
Well, and lots of authors are balancing not just a writing career, but a day job and also a family life or partners or social expectations.
Health conditions.
Health conditions. There's a lot. So I always will tell an author, because I'll have an author message me like, do you think I should write a book like this? This is really trendy right now. And I'll be like, is that the book your heart is telling you to write? Is that the voices in your head? Or is that the story you're seeing? No, but it's selling. No, then no, that is not the book I think you should write. I want you to write the book of your heart.
Yeah. Well, that's what remember, because I came to you and I was like, I can't write anything. I'm just going to write a Christmas story. And then that's where we came up with this whole world. Sometimes you just need to talk it out. I mean, it really does. There's something really to be said for talking it out with you. I mean, it really.
Thank you.
So thank you. I know. We're like, what kind of cards are there?
Business cards.
Birthday
cards. Birthday cards.
Baseball cards. But you know what you can do as an author is you can here's the thing. It can be small town, but it can be an athlete who comes home, right? Like you can bring in those tropes, right?
Absolutely.
It can be small town, but it can be a little bit kinky, right? Like
there can be an underground sex club in a small town. Why not?
Why not?
I mean, who said no? I didn't say no. I did think of a paper. You could have like a fortune cookie printer writer. That's paper.
Oh, cute one too. I know. I have so far it's business card, birthday card, baseball card, Christmas card. And I'm not 100% sure it's going to be a library card, but the first 4 books are already
1,000% there should be a library card.
I think there should be a library card.
Sarah's saying, her next book is The Billionaire and the Librarian, and I'm over here going, I love a librarian.
So here's my issue.
Love a librarian.
I love a librarian too, but is somebody going to yell at me because library cards are on your phone now? They don't have to be on your phone, right?
No, our library still gives out physical cards.
Right? Okay.
Plastic card. It's on my keychain.
Ours got rid of the keychains, and now we just have business card or credit card size. Yeah, it's not on your phone.
No, it's okay. Yeah, the 5th book is going to be the library card boyfriend.
I mean, also a hot male librarian or a nerdy cinnamon roll hero that's a librarian. Why can't we? Why do always the librarians have to be the ladies? Sometimes it can be the dude.
Yeah. Oh no, I love all the things that can be found in books. And I mean, do you know what I love about, and this is so off topic, I love when you check a book out from the library and somebody has written either a note or a thought or underlined something, like that whole connection to another person who read this book. I love it.
That's my favorite part of when I inherit books from family members and I go through and see their notes of what they thought in a book.
That's so awesome.
Anyways, I know. So small. I mean, and that's the fun thing about small towns too, is you can kind of take these little parts of them and just dive in. I don't know. Who doesn't love the library?
Right. Everybody loves the library. Okay. So we are moving on to our next segment, which is our book of the week. Imagine that awkward intro had an echo, because that's what I would like. But my IT guy says no. So instead I use awkward intros. So it's book of the week time. So for Krista and Sarah, your book of the week can be a book you recently read, or it can be one of your own that is coming out soon, whatever you want to talk about. So Sarah, for you, what's your book of the week?
Oh, it's a coin toss because I just finished a book, but I'm in the midst of everything for my book that's coming out Thursday. So I'm going to go with my book.
Okay.
I will shamelessly promote The Billionaire and the Librarian. Which I just reread it. Sometimes it's funny when you reread your stuff and you're like, oh, it's not bad. It's pretty good. This is good. This is a good book. Did I do that? Yes, the whole premise is a librarian in a very small town, and her library is having some financial issues, and she wants to get a grant, but she needs to have a match for her grant, and she finds out about a billionaire living in kind of a recluse lifestyle on the edge of town who has a collection of first edition books, and she was like, I could use that as a match. And she's a friend who works there, but she doesn't want to bother him. She has parents who have money. She doesn't want to bother them. She's like, I'm just going to go out there and get these books. And she shows up because he won't respond to her emails. And then there may be a storm and she gets stuck out there.
Forced
Ooh, I love
proximity
it.
weather. I like
love-
that.
Love it.
Is there only
I
one
love
bed?
it.
No, it's a mansion. It's a very large house.
Okay, but only one room could have had just one bed.
Or are you banging every room? I mean, there's that.
Oh, there's
You
that.
could go.
There's shenanigans that happen over the course of several days because the storm turns out to be kind of bad.
I do like shenanigans.
I love shenanigans.
I'm a fan of the shenanigans. Krista, what's your book of the week?
I'm gonna be awful too and be like Sarah and
It's not
shamelessly
awful.
promote my Starry Card Creek Bachelors, and the Starry Card Creek Colorado series. It's coming in October. The business card boyfriend, where a woman who is just about down on every luck you can imagine opens a letter, finds she has inherited a cabin, but the cabin might not be up to snuff. So there is a business card in there for a handyman, and that card changes her life. So,
Perfect.
and it's that whole small town. There's always magic in small towns, right? There's always just something magical that can happen there for the right people. So anyway,
Okay.
that's us shamelessly promoting our books.
I am all for it. So my book of the week is Manscaped by Vanessa Vale. It is also a small town romance.
Great
Although
space.
she is got herself in a thing here where she keeps needing man titles.
Yeah, it's tough because as a girl who's written Man Fast, Man Feast, and Man Find, she got good though. Hers are great.
She did. And Manscaped is an ex's dad, age gap, curvy heroine that's a librarian, lots of sexcapades. It's funny. There's a little, well, this was the dog with the pregnancy issue. So, a bull mastiff and a Pomeranian make puppies.
Oh my gosh.
It's so funny. And the opening scene is the hero. He owns a landscape company, a little bit of a lumberjack. He gets a message on his business phone that says he is responsible for getting this person pregnant and that he needs to step up. Well, he's already a single dad. His child is like a grown man now. He finds out the woman is at the vet's office. He runs to the vet's office and is like, barges into her vet appointment. I do not know you. I've never had sex with you. I didn't get you pregnant. Well, she's talking about the dog, and she left the message for his son. It's so funny. So funny. So absolutely worth a read. Okay, so if you are not a part of our Buzzing About Romance Discord, you should absolutely do that. We have lots of group reads and fun events. We have a fun event coming up in October called Books, Brews, and Booze, and lots of authors are going to be stopping in and talking about their books and hosting some giveaways. And then for Patreon, swag packs will go out October the 10th. And these go out to Fancy Drinks, Cold Brew, and Queen Bee tiers. And we still have lots of fun Buzzing About Romance exclusive stickers, mood reading cards, and other fun things. These are mailed monthly on the 10th of the month, and we do ship these internationally. This perk kicks in on the 10th of the month. So if you join on the 30th of the month, you will get the next month's perks. So there isn't any wait for that. And because our amazing Patreons, we are able to bring you 3 episodes a week. And we are still working on our goal of 75 members so we can plan our first ever book retreat. All members of Patreon get exclusive episodes and perks like Buzzing Book Club. And then our October book club pick is Rough by Vanessa Vale and Renee Rose. And you can find details about that on our website. Krista and Sarah, thank you so much for coming on and just chatting books with me and Small Town Shenanigans.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
so
having us.
much.
Until next time, everyone, happy reading.
Find us on Instagram at Buzzing About Romance or on Twitter at Buzzing Romance. If you like the podcast, please leave a review. If you'd like to support us directly, join the Bookcase and Coffee Patreon and receive exclusive content only available to Patreon members. Check out bookcaseandcoffee.com for our on-the-shelf show notes.